Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the session on how not to win a journalism grant. We were planning to do it with my colleague Eric Carstens and me, but I have to apologize. He couldn't make it because he has to write a journalism grant application under a rather short deadline. So he could not possibly make it, so I have to do it by myself. My name is Wilfried Rutten. I'm director of the European Journalism Center in Maastricht, and we do a lot of stuff in a lot of areas. Amongst one thing we do is we are a grant-giving organization to people doing investigations into Millennium Development Goals under a project from the Gates Foundation, and that's where we learned quite a lot of lessons on what to do and what not to do. What we're funding, you can see here in one look. Have a look at journalismgrants.org. You see all the winners. We have around 90 winners on the website. We've been running 7 rounds of grant applications now. There will be another call after summer for round 8. So amongst one of the stories is stuff like this. Maybe you've seen it. We have some great outputs from the work we commission there. And what we also do is we network the grantees amongst themselves, which has proven to be very successful. So winners from round 1 come to a boot camp to round 2 to help the new guys get along. And of course, this builds up over time. So now we have around 85 winners, 90 winners. And so this network has been building quite substantially, obviously. Okay, so looking for money. Everybody is all the time. It's not so easy as it maybe seems sometimes to do this. And the first thing you have to think about is there's 2 kinds of donors. One is the classic funders who think like journalists. Let's say the Knight Foundation, Global Investigative Journalism Association, people like this who have a journalistic mindset already. And you have other people who come from outside the journalism field, like, for example, with us, the Gates Foundation, and other people who are not generally journalists. So you have to always bear in mind who is the donor, who are these guys who are giving this grant. Don't just feel full of yourself and say, I can do it, I'm a journalist, it's just waiting for me. No. Be very careful, read things very carefully. That's the most important thing I can tell you. Whenever you see an application opportunity for grants, read the bloody FAQs. Read what it says. Print it out. Put it on your desk. Share it with your colleagues. Don't do it on the last day. Really look at the language of the funding that is suggested and really chew on it. And read it 20 times and mark it and question it and talk to your colleagues about what does this mean, what could it mean. Be very slow on this. Don't be in a rush. We're always in a rush. Everybody is. If you apply for stuff like this, try not to be in a rush. Try to find some time. Whenever you do it, put away some dedicated time for the funding application. Don't just do it in between 5 and 6 o'clock and then you have another 2 meetings. This will not work. You need to ideally go to Perugia for a week, hide, and then write it. That's we can't do this, obviously, but that would be the ideal thing to do, to really set away time for this application writing, and don't just wing it. Okay, most common mistakes. As I mentioned, the first thing is not reading and understanding the terms of conditions. You have to assume when the grant is out, the people who give the money have spent substantial time themselves on the language. Nothing usually in the language in the application is by coincidence. Everything has been chewed on by several people, so the language that is published is already a highly dense text. It's already something people have been working on diligently. So you have to take it as seriously as the guys who wrote it. So not reading and understanding it is the most obvious mistake. Also, sometimes you feel you understand, and then you don't. That's why I do suggest do it in teams, in pairs. Have a colleague who can play back to you, do I read this correctly? Do I understand this like this? And have somebody else say, yeah, I understand it like that as well. Then you know you're on the right track, instead of hoping, I understand it all right, it will be all right, well, come on, let's do it. No, really read carefully. And then, of course, don't be full of yourself. Don't be, I'm a journalist, I can do it. I'm an expert in, let's say, scientific stories. This is something about migration. I can do anything. So, of course, I'm a scientific journalist, but migration is also scientific. So, yeah. So, don't be off topic. Focus on what it says. Focus on not what you can do, but what the other party wants. So, being off topic often happens. And then we get applications where you see that they didn't read the FAQs. We've been, with the Gates project, we've been receiving 7 rounds, we've been receiving around 3,000 applications in 3 years' time, so you can imagine how much work it is to read them all, but a lot of them, or I would say 25% of them, are not even eligible because the people have not read the FAQs. I'm from India, I'm a journalist, can I apply? If you read the FAQs, it says you have to have a European outlet, you can be from wherever you are, but you need a European newspaper and European publishing house to publish your story. So reading it and being on topic and not just, I'm a journalist, here I am, hello, is not good enough. And then also be specific. No, don't just say, I'm a journalist, I can do everything like we all can. No, be specific, I can do this specific topic. I can do something about Africa. I know the story. I know who I work with. I know the locations, things like that. Give you one example, rather funny if you like. We had in one of the rounds, we had a girl from Denmark, just out of journalism school, and she wanted to follow a warlord in the Congo for 6 weeks. Just travel with him, see what he's up to. And she had no experience in Africa. She was just out of jail school. She wanted to do it all alone, so we told her, this is much too dangerous. Don't do this. But why not? I can do it, yes. Traveling with a warlord around the bush for 6 weeks, she might have never come back. So be smart on who you are and who you're not, specifically. So reading is essential here. And then in the approach, don't assume entitlement. Don't assume these guys have been waiting for me. These guys have been waiting for me to write this application here. No, nobody's been waiting for you. So don't assume you're more than anyone else. There's usually massive competition. In our Gates project, we have around, each round, we have around 400, 500 applications. So if you have a sense of entitlement, like, oh, they're waiting for me. No, nobody's waiting for you. So you have to be quite humble, which is also something journalists usually are not very good at. Also, don't suggest your grant eating. That means, I just do it because there's money. Again, coming back to my example on science and migration, you're an expert on migration reporting, and then you see there's money to be had for some scientific stories, so you just switch it around, say, I'm a scientific journalist now, I should be able to get that one too. No, don't create the impression that you just go for this because there's money. You have to show that your work in the past has something to do with the new call you're going to apply for. It's not just, oh, there's money on the table, so I go, hey, here I go. No, that will not work. Be careful that you also not to be seen to be desperate. I do need this money. My company is going down the drain. I could really do with 20,000 euro now. This is a very sure way not to win it. If you show you're too desperate, I need this now before somewhere or else. That kind of thing will not work. You have to be, on top of things and not give me the money now because I need it badly. This will. People can read it between the lines. It smells bad. A sure way not to win it if you're getting too desperate. Then also explain yourself from the outside. A lot of people are very sure of themselves what they do, but it doesn't mean that everybody else understands what you do. So explain yourself properly means explain it in a way that somebody who has never heard of you or your organization or your outfit or your team still understands who you are. That's why it's always good to have somebody, third party, read it. If you write an application, show it to your boyfriend, your girlfriend, who has nothing to do, or some stranger, or your cousin, or somebody who has nothing directly to do with what you do. So you can see how does it read from the outside? How does it make sense for a non-expert who hasn't known you already for 5 years, 10 years? Always think from outside into the inside, and not just from the inside to the outside. So find somebody, an amateur, your cousin, somebody who likes you but who doesn't really care about what you do, to read this, to see, does it explain who you are, what you're up to, that also a non-expert can understand it. And then, of course, you have to reassure the donor that you can actually do it. So the more you can show in the past that you've done similar projects, the more you can show I have experience in the field, in this area, the better it is. You have to be reassuring. It's not something you've never done in your life and maybe you make it. No, you have to put yourself in a position to say, hey, I can do this, I've done this before, I know how it goes, I know also the difficulties I might encounter. Don't just gloss over the problems you might find. Going into Africa reporting or to Indonesia to report, there's so many unknown factors that can ruin your story. Security reasons, travel problems, incidents, all kinds of things, government interference. So be humble and be aware of the risk, and don't just say, no problem, I can wing it. No, you will not wing it. You will have to be diligent about it. So reassuring the donor that you can actually do it is actually the most important thing, because they give you money for something they want. So you have to play it back to them to say, hey, I can do what you want. I know what you want, I'm up to it, and I can deliver on time. And don't write things like, I hope I will, and things like that. Or if everything goes well, I might be able to report. No. You will go, you will do the report, you will be back on time, you will deliver on deadline, even if it's not true. Let's hope you all deliver on deadline, yes, but be modest in a way that you say, I know what you want, I can deliver it, I will do my best. And don't make it seem too easy, because it isn't. And then you always have to think about the other 450 guys who are applying for the same money. They might have some more nice language, or more experience, or better CVs, or whatever. So be really focused. Maybe one word about CVs. Would I trust a journalist's CV? Only so far. I mean, if journalists can't even jazz up their own CV, what kind of writers are they? So you have to take a journalist CV with a grain of salt, usually. They optimize what they've done in their lives. I've been doing it myself. You gloss over the holes in your CV. You make the best out of the stuff that didn't work. Or if I was unemployed for a while 10 years ago, did I say I was unemployed? No, I just covered it differently. So CVs are very important. Usually it's one of the main criteria. Let's have a look at who is this person who wants to do this complicated story. So really give it a love. That's the standard CV you have. You might want to rewrite it, especially for this occasion, especially for this grant. Don't just send the normal CV you always send. You might want to add a few sentences here and there in your CV that shows that you're very close to the topic or very close to the issue. So I can already see from your CV that you're somebody who should be eligible there. And then on the practical level, this is the most important. I'm going to spend some more time on this. There's often, from the donor side, a lot of lingo, a lot of special language, which comes from their own world. So you have to be very careful to understand what these words mean that you see in the application. So use dictionaries, talk to native speakers, be very sure that you know what they mean with reporting, impact, benchmarks, whatever words they're using in the application form. Be careful that you know, that you understand what it means, and read it carefully and try to really discuss it with your colleagues so you're really sure what the language is there. And what donors do like is, if you write an application, to play back some of the language that is in the call. So it's always nice to see that somebody picks up language from the tender, from the call, into the application, because then it shows you read it and you integrate what the other party wants into your text. So you basically, what you do is you play text back at the donor. You play his own text, their own text back at them. That makes them feel understood. So don't just come with your things, but read what it says, read what the donor wants, and use that, integrate as much of that language in your application. So it's not alien. It's seen like, oh, this person has understood what I want. This person has integrated my needs into his application. It's a language trick, obviously, but it helps. Then maybe one more word about deadline. We all are deadline driven. Everybody does it on the very last day. Don't. When we have 500 applications per round, out of which 250 literally come on the last day, on the very last day. 100 of them come in the last hour. So I usually sit on the server to see when they're coming in, and it is 2,300 it starts, and then 2,400 it ends, so there's 100 applications coming in the last minute, so the server is at capacity. So it's not good to do it on the last minute. If there's a deadline, I strongly suggest you take a deadline minus 1 day. The deadline should be the day before. The day before, you have everything you need ready, and then you have a whole day to maybe get some sleep, to wake up in the morning, have another final look at things, and then send it off in the morning. Don't do it before, 5 minutes to deadline. The internet might break down, your computer might break down. We get people, my connectivity in Zanzibar was very poor. Yes, well, the connectivity in Zanzibar is very poor. The connectivity in Perugia actually is very poor sometimes. So don't rely on the best case scenario for a deadline. Try to be really, if you can be 4 weeks early, good luck. Nobody's ever 4 weeks early, but 1 day before the deadline, you should have everything set, everything. Also, sometimes there's a form you need to fill online. Don't do it on the last day. Look at the form before. What is this requirements of the form you need to fill? How much space will it give you? How many words can you submit? Play with the form before filling it, before sending it out. If there's 20 fields to fill, make it a practice run. What do they need here? What do I have? Does my form fill? Does it take the PDF? Sometimes in another circumstance, for example, they had limited the volume of the files, and then the file was too big, so we crunched it. It was still too big, so we did it in tool, and the tool didn't take it. So be very careful about the tool, the platform you have to submit it on. Go to it before, and really look at each item you have to fill and see what do they really need from me, and can I fill it? And if not, you might have to have some compact tool that crunches your data into a smaller file size, or sometimes they have a possibility to add something somewhere else because it doesn't fit in the original form. So these forms, these platforms, these application platforms can be a real bastard. Have a very close look at this, and don't just do it on the last day. This is no good. And then also, if you're applying, usually it is an application, not just you, maybe more people. So make a real point of the expert pool you're working with. If you have somebody, let's say, who has knowledge in budgets, somebody who has knowledge, what we just heard here, in data scraping, or in visualizations, or you have somebody who's really writing very well, use these people to their own best advantage. Don't feel you can do it by yourself. Maybe you can do it by yourself, but if you team up with people, it always helps that the best visualizer you know does your visualization, the best copy editor writes, and the best number cruncher you have does the budget. Don't just feel I can do it all by myself. It's usually much better to have teamwork, and to have the highest talent you find in an area, have him do part of this. It makes the application so much better. And let me see. Maybe one more word about lingo. Usually, if you're applying for a grant that is not from your country, this is even more important than if it is, let's say, in Italian, you're Italian, you understand what it says. but sometimes you apply to a grant in a different language. That makes it even more important that you understand what is meant by the words. So be really, a close reading is the most important thing. The close reading of what is requested of you helps a lot. And then the second most important thing is not having to be in a rush. Third most important thing is don't think they've been waiting for you. Nobody's waiting for anyone. There's always a competition. There's a lot of excellent journalists out there. You're not the only ones. Always think there's another 250 people who also spend 3 weekends, 2 weeks, whatever it takes to apply for this. And they also are good. So you don't take it for granted. I can win it all right because I'm so good. No, there's other people who are really good too. So there's always a large competition. It's an art form. We do this, the European Journalism Center, we're a non-profit foundation. We apply for projects like this in a bigger scale, maybe 5 or 6 a year, and we win maybe 1 or 2 a year. So also what you need to learn is to deal with disappointment. If you do not win it, don't be too disappointed. Try again, try another one. Sometimes we win things where we felt this was not really good. And sometimes we lose things where everybody in staff feels this is the best application we ever sent off and we didn't win it. It doesn't always mean that the best thing you do is also appreciated as the best. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes for odd reasons you win something you had already given up on, sometimes you win things you had forgotten about. Even after a year, sometimes some donors have a long decision-making process, so you apply for something now in spring, and then by Christmas they finally made up their minds. You won the thing, and of course in Christmas you're too busy to even pick it up anymore. So be careful also what you wish for. Really, if you apply, really put away some time. If you do win this, then you have to deliver. So don't just say, well, I might not win it, I can wing it, I'm doing something else. You have to leave some time in your calendar, obviously, that if this goes through, that you have to step to the plate and actually deliver what you promised on, which, especially for freelancers, is difficult because they always go with a new project. So sometimes this comes back to haunt you 6 months after you submit it. Be aware that you need to put some time away also later on in the year for this, that decision-making processes are notoriously slow. It usually takes 3 months at least before you get a yes or no. So after 3 months, you still have to be ready and pretend you're fresh. And donors can read in between the lines. If you're too strung out, if you're too busy, or if you're not busy at all, it's also a very bad sign. If I see something like this guy hasn't worked in 2 years and now he's applying for something, I know he's too slow to start running. It's usually good to show that you're a working journalist, that you're in the middle of this, that you already work, that you do this anyway, and then get some money to make it better, nicer, bigger, deeper, whatever. But if if it seems like this guy has all the time in the world, it's not a good feeling. So donors like busy people and like people who are already working on something to make it worth their while. I'm almost finished. I give 3 links for more information here. One is journalismfund.eu, which is a big European funding operation run by Brigitte Alfter in Belgium and other people. Then Global Investigative Journalism Network has a big resource page on where you find resources on grants and also how to apply and some tips and tricks. And also our very own journalism grants from the EJC. Also, it is good if you apply for something and you know a previous winner. This is invaluable. We see this in our journalism grants project, that previous winners who've been through the machine once, they of course know how the machine works. So if you talk to a previous winner, if you get hold of somebody who already won this money in the year before or in the last project, these guys can give you invaluable advice. What did you do to win? What did you do? What did you write? What made you successful? What was the lessons learned in this? So if you know somebody who did this already and who won already, Like in our case, Jacopo Ottaviani, one of the Italian, very fine colleague. I think he's won our grants for 3 times. So of course he knows how it goes. So he tells me a lot of new grantees are asking him now, what did you do to win? What was the trick? What was the magic thing you did? And he's very generous and shares his knowledge. So if you have somebody who knows somebody who already did win, squeeze that person, ask him questions. What did you do? Can I see what you applied for? Can I have a look? Can you have a look at what I'm sending? Things like this. Don't be afraid to ask for help. This is a highly competitive environment. Only usually the best win or the best writers win. So don't be afraid to also ask for help, even if you feel you can do it alone, even if you have to do it alone in the end. If you have somebody who can help you with anything there, it's not a lone endeavor. It's a team effort. And the more you bring to the table from all the knowledge you have and all the competence you can draw on, bring everything you have to the table. If you want to win $50,000, you better make an effort for it. Nothing is for free. Okay, and then back to work. Thank you very much. I have 5 minutes questions. I'm also be here till Sunday, so if you want to come up to me individually and I have some questions on things, I'm also fine to speak, obviously off the record, about tips and tricks. And don't follow warlords in the Congo if you've never been to Africa before. It's not a good idea. All right.